Welcome to today's workshop on evaluations in Woodbridge Township School District. Hopefully by the end of this workshop, you will understand what you need to do in order to earn an effective and highly effective teacher rating using Danielson's framework for teaching. Today, we're going to talk about our district vision and mission statements and how they align with the Danielson framework for teaching, the federal and state laws that are guiding our evaluations, the purpose of evaluations, our township's evaluation tools, both Charlotte Danielson's framework for teaching, which is managed by the Genesis Information System, and how we assess those evaluations in our township, both formative and summative, professional development plans or PDPs, corrective action plans or CAPs, professional learning workshops and communities, and also the additional supports that we have for our non-tenured teachers. And there will be time at the end for a question and answer session. So here in Woodbridge Township, and specifically here at John F. Kennedy Memorial High School, we have a shared mission and vision statement. The Woodbridge Township School District seeks to engage the entire community in instructing and inspiring our students to be successful and significant beyond our classrooms. In order to achieve this vision, it is our mission to develop through a technology-infused curriculum lifelong learners who are responsible citizens prepared to make positive contributions to the global society. We are committed to engaging all members of the community in the process of providing a learning environment that fosters interdependence, embraces change, and values diversity. It's important to remember some of these kind of catchphrases and keywords because it's exactly what Charlotte Danielson's evaluation tool is looking for. And so our vision and mission statements are super in line with what Danielson's framework for teaching is trying to evaluate our teachers on, which is why we chose her evaluation model in the first place. So there are state and federal laws that are guiding us and essentially the reasons why we are conducting these evaluation systems in the way that we are in our school district. The state law that was signed in 2012 by Governor Chris Christie is Teach NJ, the Teach NJ Act, or Teacher Effectiveness and Accountability for the Children of New Jersey. And this was signed into law by the governor with the intent to raise student achievement by improving instruction through the adoption of evaluations that provide specific feedback to educators, inform the provision of aligned professional development, and inform personnel decisions. This law applies to all teaching staff, so not just teachers, but also school nurses, the guidance counselor, athletic trainer, child study team, all the support staff, but they're just not measured in the same way. To help teachers become successful, the following strategies are also required to be implemented according to Teach NJ. School improvement panels or SKIPs, mentoring programs, PDPs, and CAPs. Another significant change from Teach NJ is that it changed from receiving and maintaining tenure status from 3 years and 1 day to 4 years and 1 day. So everything in this presentation applies to non-tenured teachers for their first 4 years in our district. The instrument that's used to measure teacher practice and student outcomes is Achieve NJ. And Achieve NJ was updated in 2015 to meet the federal requirements and federal standards through the ESSA, which I will talk about in a minute. Achieve NJ was set into place to uphold the Teach NJ requirements. And there were over 24 options for school districts to choose from in our state. And we chose Danielson's model because we felt like it was, again, the most in line with our mission and vision statements and also provided the best platform for highly effective teachers. The largest area, no matter what tool your district is using, is observations, right? A big component of this evaluation system is the use of student growth objectives and student growth percentiles. All grade levels and subject areas need to have student growth objectives, so some sort of pre-test and post-test and specific SGO to see that our students are meeting the standards that we are setting for them. However, in grades 4 through 8, in language arts literacy and mathematics, there is also a requirement for student growth percentiles, and your principals will go over that in more detail with you. Training on this instrument will take place yearly at our opening day workshops so that you're all aware on the instrument and you know how to best fit your instructional setting in order to uphold these guidelines. At the end of the year, like we'll talk about, you'll be given a summative rating of highly effective, effective, partially effective, or ineffective based on all of your scores from your observations. The federal law influencing Teach NJ in the Achieve NJ Act is Every Student Succeeds Act, or ESSA, which was signed into law by President Obama in 2015. This law builds on both No Child Left Behind and the Elementary and Secondary Education Act of 1965. Both of these acts that came prior to ESSA were trying to help the disadvantaged youth, try to close the achievement gap, and increase the federal role of holding schools accountable for closing the achievement gap. The ESSA specifically aims to create equity amongst all students in all states and close the achievement gap, promoting higher academic standards for college and career readiness, which is something mentioned in our mission statement, increasing access to preschool, and holding all states accountable for underperforming districts and students, ensuring that there's supports available to keep achievement high and dropout rates low. Achieve NJ was revised to meet these standards in 2015. So why do we even need to be evaluated? Well, according to our education scholars Wong and Sullivan and Glantz, effective teachers produce higher achieving students. So in order to ensure that our teachers are effective, these observations and evaluations are needed to try and help you pinpoint both your strengths and weaknesses and provide the supports necessary to increase effectiveness. Evaluations are both formative and summative and should be an open dialogue between leadership staff and your teachers to try and hold teachers accountable for their teaching methods and provide feedback to help them in their classrooms. Evaluation models are also well-researched and data-driven, like Danielson's is, and so are the observations themselves. Again, we want this to foster reflective practices and improvement, so open dialogue and conversation between leadership and educators are super important. When teachers know where they need to improve, they'll see a difference in their student outcomes, and these professional collaborative efforts with leadership help teachers succeed. So what does Danielson's framework look like? Danielson's framework is broken down into 4 domains. Domain 1 is planning and preparation. Planning and preparation is assessed only once with a pre-conference to look over details of the lesson to be observed. This is for all teachers, both tenured and non-tenured. Domain 2 and 3, classroom environment and instruction, are assessed twice or 3 times depending on your tenure status. This uses our observations and evidence from classroom activity. Observations for non-tenured teachers are going to be 1 long, so about a 40-minute observation, and 2 and 3 short 20-minute observations, and non-tenured teachers will have 2 short observations. Domain 4, professional responsibilities, are only assessed once, usually during summative evaluation. This is based on not what's going on inside the classroom, but how you're contributing to our school community outside the classroom, your professional development, your contact with parents, and your involvement in school activities. Each domain, like you can see on this next slide here, is broken down into components, and each component is broken down into critical attributes. There are 22 components for Charlotte Danielson's framework for teaching. You can see, for example, domain 1, planning and preparation. One of those components is demonstrating knowledge of content and pedagogy. The framework is intended to start and end with conferences between both the evaluator and the evaluee. So you will have these pre-conferences, especially when you're non-tenured, to assess what's going to be taught. You'll be observed. There'll be a consolidation period where you're going to try and provide or assign evidence to the critical attributes that are outlined in the framework to see where you have met those attributes and where you need to work on. And then post-conferences, both parties will have a chance to reflect and discuss both the pros and cons of the observation and establish some plan of action for the next observation. And this occurs repeatedly throughout the year. We want to keep that communication open. We want to ensure collaboration. Danielson has a different verbiage that she uses for her summative scores. In Woodbridge Township, we use the highly effective, effective, partially effective, and ineffective scoring as per Achieve NJ, not these listed here for Danielson. What does this timeline look like? The evaluation timeline is pretty dependent upon each school. So there are 26 schools in Woodbridge Township, and they function a little bit on a different timeline. But in general, this is where you are going to see your observations and evaluations be completed. By the end of September, your first formative observation will be complete, your announced one with Domain 1, preparation and planning, and also be the long observation for non-tenured teachers. Pre-conferences will be required for this observation and post-conferences as part of that clinical supervision and reflective practice that we're trying to achieve here in Woodbridge. By mid-January, your second formative observation will be complete. Tenured faculty, here's a little side note, who receive a 3.5 or higher summative rating from the previous school year can actually complete a self-observation for this observation. This will be unannounced, whether you're tenured or non-tenured, short, tenured or non-tenured, and only comprised of domains 2 and 3. Then by spring break in April, non-tenured teachers will be observed at least one more time, potentially if needed, prior to April's summative evaluation. But this is where summative evaluations will begin, starting with non-tenured teachers first and then tenured faculty. Based on your score, then both teacher and supervisor will make a personalized PDP to follow for the next school year. For us at JFK and other buildings within our district, we're starting to use actually school-wide PDPs, which I'll show you in a second. The major players in this evaluation process are our teachers, our department heads, vice principals, principals, and central administration if necessary, but mostly they rely on building leadership to perform the evaluation process. And then again, this all varies depending on your school that you're in, the grade level, and subject area that you teach. Cost of these evaluations are mostly in the form of personnel, time, and technology. It costs a lot to make sure that we have the iPads and Chromebooks that we all do and to keep Genesis updated and running. And while that actually costs physical money, the biggest investment in this evaluation process is time, right? Our manpower. In JFK, for example, we have 125 teachers that need to get evaluated 2 to 3 times a year. That's a lot of observations, and there's definitely a lot less leadership staff to do that. So they're definitely most costly in terms of time, which is why if you can do a self-observation when you're tenured, it's highly encouraged that you do so. Here's that Genesis employee portal. So this is like your home page. This is where you input everything you need to in order to see your observation scores, to sign off on your observations, to be able to refer to them as needed, to upload your video if you are doing a self-observation, to input your professional development, to create your PDP, or to see the school PDP that you also need to sign off on as a kind of statement that, yes, I will uphold this school-wide PDP. And all of that you can find right here, along with other payroll information, important forms, district policies, and documents that you might need. You also input your SGO scores on there as well, which go into your final summative evaluation, right? So your formative observations I previously discussed, your summative observation, again, takes into account Domain 4, your professional responsibilities. So again, if we look back, that's your professional development log that you'll look at over here. And also all of your SGO scores will go towards that summative evaluation and your summative score. The PDPs, now in the past we've done individualized professional development plans, and depending on your score, you might need to create some with your supervisor or your principal. However, what a new trend that we're working towards is actually creating these school-wide PDPs. So I've included an example from JFK over here on the screen, looking at specific areas identified for development for the entire school that all teachers are expected to uphold. And this comes in the form of instructional practices, through a Genesis gradebook and lesson planner, through Google Classroom implementation, and also developing social emotional learning skills through digital citizenship. Right. And all of this really is looked for in the Danielson model and also reflected in our mission and vision statements. Right. So there's definitely a method to our madness here. We're trying to keep everything in line, and we're trying to make sure that you as a teacher have the supports needed to get that highly effective rating and be as successful as possible. So using this Genesis employee portal is one way to keep track of everything and make sure that you are on the right track for that highly effective rating. If not, right, you might need to create a corrective action plan. These are only necessary for teachers who receive a summative rating of partially effective or ineffective. And this will be decided upon by your principal and teacher, set those areas of improvement, and discuss the new goals and strategies to try and use to increase your effectiveness in the classroom. There's also a myriad of professional learning workshops and communities for you to partake in. One of our scholars, Sullivan and Glanz, talk a lot about being up to date on your it's Strong is talking about staying up to date on your content area, and that effective teachers are constantly learning and growing. And so by taking advantage of some of our workshops in our district, but also workshops outside the district, are one way to increase your effectiveness in the classroom. Also, using all of the Google resources that are available to you here is totally worth it for collaboration with your colleagues, which Wong and Wong talk a lot about being one incredible way to try and increase your effectiveness. Right? We have department and school support classrooms. We have shared drives. We have Google certification training. So definitely take advantage of that. And especially you non-tenured teachers out there, take advantage of all of our professional development opportunities. Definitely, you are required to attend our summer new teacher trainings, our monthly new teacher trainings throughout the year, and you will get a mentor that you can work with, ideally in your department, to learn from, to use, to lesson plan with, and to really, again, try and get that effectiveness rating to a 3.5 or higher. If you have any questions at all for me, please don't hesitate to ask, right? We are your best resources. Woodbridge Township School District wants you to succeed. We want you to get that highly effective rating. So make sure that if you have any problems along the way, that you reach out to one of your leadership members, your supervisor, your principal, sit down and talk to them. We want to hear from you. We want to make you better. And we want to make sure that you are feeling safe and supported in our schools. So if you need anything at all, please reach out to me via email or check out what I'm doing on my professional Twitter and Instagram page. And I will see you all soon, I hope. Have a great afternoon. Thank you.